Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
everybody.
Welcome.
Hey,
Thanks so
thanks.
much for showing up. We appreciate
Sorry
you
to
being
keep
here.
you waiting. Sorry to keep you
Oh, we didn't
waiting.
keep anybody waiting. We're right on time. We're right
We
on
are
time, just like always. We start at 12. We finish at 1 if you're in the Central Time
Central.
Zone.
Yep, yep.
And State of the End and Win. We're going to something we'll give away here in a little while.
How's everybody doing? Go ahead and if you haven't been here before, it's nice to see you. Nice to meet you. If you have, hello again. This is going to be a great episode. What it 158?
Uh,
158?
Sounds right.
Yes, 158.
All right. Thank you. Cool.
All right.
Well, and full disclosure, this was Amy's idea. And so this is going to be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, hey, our special guest, Amy Meyers. Her title is longer than I can say, but she's like national superstar for MDA. Tremendous fundraiser, wealth of
Supernatural
knowledge.
superstar.
Yeah, she's good. Trevor
Those are
Nelson,
too
Jason Ledlow,
kind.
Bailey's standing by, going to be helping us out, and we'll get things rolling. All
Awesome.
right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. It's fantastic. As Jason mentioned, State of the End and Win. We're going to give away some cool stuff at the end. We're going to do this is not your grandmother's webinar, so it's not going to be just us sharing slides and getting super long-winded, even though Jason and I really like to talk. But nonetheless, we're going to keep it very, very interactive. The whole impetus for this webinar was you have an event coming up, maybe you just did one, you're thinking about one, doesn't matter where you fit, how big your organization is, how small. We've got an expert here. Jason's got 3 decades of experience. I'm just a good information thief listening to these two talk about events and whatnot and what I've learned just from knowing them. But we've got an expert here that runs really, really large events with her team, and we want to talk about trends, and we want to talk about what's working. I'm a big believer in talking about hits and misses so we can be helpful. And in typical HGA fashion, we're just going to put our best information out for free. So happy that everyone came. And yeah, good to see everybody. If you're watching this as a recording, do us a favor, leave us a comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel, share it with someone in your network, leave a comment. If we don't get to your question during the live recording, do us a favor, leave that in the comment section, and we'll be sure to respond to you and get at you. So thanks so much, everybody, for
All
coming.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start off because I got a couple of questions I want to do. And by the way, the chat's open. Ask if you've
Yep.
got a question at any point in time. Put it in the Q&A. Put it in the
Yep.
chat. I promise you, we'll get to it.
You can ask
And then we'll be done,
anonymously if
and we'll
you
have
want.
you out within the hour. I promise.
Yep.
So we're going to get all we can. Amy, so it's been a
Mhm.
while. I'm so
It
glad you've
has.
been here. And so my question for you, because as you went through, so as we finish quarter 1, going through, finishing up April. Give me maybe one of the top 1 or 2 trends that you're seeing, or things that you saw that maybe it might have surprised you or um, really came up on your radar.
Um, we unfortunately don't have as busy of a first quarter as I would like. So we've only had a few big events. I think the trend that we've seen, and it's a good trend, is we are seeing our mission drive fund a need
Hmm.
really increasing.
Nice.
And I say that in that not necessarily that we're raising more money overall day of the event, we're raising more in the mission drive, which then in turn we're seeing our silent auction numbers down. Sometimes our live auction down a little bit, but just more overall people giving more to that mission, not needing to get something in return for their money, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Gotcha.
That's
We're
been a big
seeing
one.
we're seeing something similar to that too, and it's been kind of a trend over the last 10 years, really. We went from 20 years ago, you'd have 15, 20 items in the live auction. Nobody even did a fund a need. Have a
Mhm.
big silent auction, and that was kind of the thing. And then the trend started about 10 years ago. People started realizing that, hey, if you just ask for people to help your mission, they'll they'll help, because there wasn't anything in the silent auction they wanted, there wasn't anything in the live auction that they got, but they have capacity to give and they want to help and be part of the mission, and it was communicated really well. And so we see that happening more and more. And just probably 5 years ago, we would say it was 8 to 12 items in the live auction. Now we're seeing it's 6 to 8, 5 to 6,
46.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm a believer in doing the live auction because I think it does a lot of energy and it changes things for you. But what I want to wonder is, do you think it's because the trend that I see that we've observed coaching with people, working with people, is that they are doing better at communicating, number one, what their mission is, how this money is going to affect that mission, and what the results of those funds will, what that results will result in, what those funds will result in. So really talking about that, communicating before, people say, hey, we're here, it's really good. Hey, if you want to give us $1,000, that'd be great. Or specifically saying, this is what the money's for. This is what we're doing. I don't mean like in a restricted gift. I mean, this is what our mission is. This is how your funds are going to power it and do that. Are you seeing some more of that? Are you guys emphasizing that more?
100%. We've gotten better at communicating earlier, leading up to the event, letting people know, prepping our donors, prepping our, letting them know we're going to have a silent auction, we're going to have a live auction, we're going to have a mission moment, and then not just putting like that you can give to the mission, but putting those fun facts with it, so to speak, that if
Totally.
you give $2,000 to our fund in need, that will send a kid to camp.
Mhm.
Or if you do $130, that's a workup at one of the care centers. So really letting people know how their money can be used.
Yep.
And like I said, doing it ahead of time so people come in prepared for that instead of expecting people to just give on the fly. I mean, it's a charity event and people, you hope, know that they're going to, come in and spend money. But I think prepping them ahead of time, and also, your committee, you have to utilize your committee. The room it should be your committee has sold those sponsorships and brought those people into the room. And so utilize them to have those conversations with their guests. Hey, this is a charity event. Come prepared to spend money. So
Love that.
100% communication. We have a whole timeline of when certain emails are, they're very triggered. They're very specific when certain emails go out, certain messaging through, like I said, the committee. So we definitely have a plan for it ahead of time.
That's awesome.
Well, I think, go ahead. No, please go ahead, Trevor.
No, I just want to follow up. I mean, you're communicating and you're showing them a roadmap. You're giving folks a
Mhm.
roadmap of how they can give. I don't think that's a we keep on having this conversation, other webinars, other folks, coaching calls, communicating these things, communicating this effort. And like I said, I just kind of call it just giving folks a roadmap of how they can give. Awesome. I just wanted to follow up as well, though. Jason was talking about a trend where there's less live auction items. I think that also bears, to the point that the whole run of show, the golden hour of fundraising, is shortening because of people's attention span. They want to get in, hopefully give, right? Get in, get out. And I'm just using those terms loosely, of course. But I think that's definitely part of the reason why we're seeing a lower amount of live auction items, of course, and a lot of focus on this mission moment, mission giving, things of that nature. You said that you're not raising more money in the fund in need, Amy. My follow-up question: you're not raising more money necessarily, but you're seeing that it's working. I'm assuming there's more participation at lower giving levels. Like, what do you mean there? You're not raising more money.
No. We are raising more in our fund of need than we have in the
I
past.
misheard you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're raising more in our fund of need where people
Okay.
are just giving and not getting something in return, and we're seeing a decline in like our silent auction or our revenue enhancers.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Well,
I wanted to clarify.
I want to address that real quick because something we saw last year. It started the last quarter of last year, really the second half of last year, and really we saw this in multiple events we deal with. And I want to get to all the questions. They're really good, so I want to
We've
talk
got some
about
questions
those.
coming in.
But one of the things that we saw is, yes, we were seeing, some of the organizations were seeing, doing less things. Their live auction wasn't performing as well, but we really did some analysis on that, and what we found was the reason that the silent auction was doing less is because nobody wanted the crap. Everybody can get on Amazon and have a whole pile of stuff on your front door tomorrow. So the little trinkets and trivial stuff just doesn't do anything because, number one, we all know what it is. We all know we've already got it or we don't need it. And doing that, the trend I'm talking about that was really incredible when we analyzed it was when people started putting significant items in their silent auction, they started bringing huge returns. I'm saying years past, you're like, oh, we got to put this in the live auction so it'll bring enough money. We're seeing things bring more in the silent auction than they did in the live auction. A villa to Greece brings $15,000, And the most expensive thing that sold in the live auction was a dog for $4,900. It's just a different thing. And I think part of that is there's stuff that people don't want. And that's the first thing we've got to do. You know, we start talking about how we're going to do a live auction, what we're going to do. It's hard to go out and get a bunch of stuff because the novelty, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago was the auctioneer getting up there and doing the auction. Now we've got to get more involved in thinking about what people want. And one of the best questions that you can do is start asking your donors, what do you want? What are you looking for? What are you seeing? So that I just want to make that point because we're just seeing the analytic trends that's happening. I want to get to a question. This is a really good question. So Rachel says, one of our biggest events, it's led by a board member, and the attendees are very specific to the industry. And basically it winds up just being a big network party. And the attendees there under a sponsorship, and most don't give a penny. Okay. I love this question because I think I'd love to hear what Amy has to say about that, because sometimes, and the other point that Rachel made was when they start asking for money, it's they're offended because why are you asking me for money? Because I'm here for a party. I think that's kind of the way you're saying, Rachel. So Amy, why don't you give us a take on that?
I mean, I think we all have had those events. I mean, I had one for years when I came to MDA, and it's exactly what it was. They thought they were coming to a party, and I had to learn and I had to analyze it. And what I found in that situation for me was that's how it was being sold. Back to the communication, I think that you have to start with that board member, and it's tough because we all know how board members are and they get set in their ways. But I think those conversations have to take place ahead of time, and you have to change that trend with the conversations you have with your committee and the conversations they have with their guests, because typically you find that that's how they're selling the event. They're selling it as a networking event. They're not selling it as a charity event to raise money. And it's tough. It's tough. And sometimes, you know, I hate to say this, but firing your volunteers, you know, maybe it's not a good fit for them, and you know, you need some new committee members. Slowly bring in some new ones and some new, you know, and when you bring them on, that is a conversation you have up front. Is, you know, as a committee member, the expectation is you raise $25,000 through your, you know, your Rolodex and your network, and start bringing in that new blood. And eventually the older ones that have been on and aren't selling it as a fundraising event, they either get on board and start selling it as a fundraising event, or they slowly drop off, and it's not a bad thing.
You set those parameters in place and communicate those really, really early with your committees as well, though, correct? I mean, it's really.
We have a one-sheeter when we go meet with them. It shows, you know, this is the expectations as a committee member, and then down below, like, this is what MDA will do for you. It's so, you know, here's what I'm gonna do, and here's what I want you to do.
Right. Precise communication early on. This is what we're doing. Yep, I love that.
I'm going to go a completely different way. Instead of fighting against it, go with it. So there's an event that I've been a part of for a long, long time. It's a big fundraiser. It's a big party. Everybody brings this stuff in. It's kind of the guys' event for Oklahoma City where I live. It's called Fight Night. They have MMA fights and boxing and cocktails, and everybody's wearing a tux. It's really kind of a cool thing, smoking cigars and doing that thing. And the big complaint was for years that all these tables, and they watched all these numbers, is that people would bring them in and do it, and then nobody gave any money. Nobody bid on anything or did anything. So they raised the price of all the tickets. They said, fine, we're just going to make it a party. They raised the price of the tables. They did do a silent auction. They cut down on the live auction piece, and they started doing some raffles where they would have ladies going around selling, like they did because they're looking at their crowd. Their crowd, you know, people wanted stuff like a Rolex, and so they did a Rolex. They did those kind of things because people, you know, where they're not going to sit there and pay attention to give a fund and eat, because there's 600 people and they're all having cocktails and smoking cigars and talking and networking because it's the place to be. So they just went the other way, and now they net about $250,000 doing that same event. And so instead of fighting against it, sometimes you just have to go with it and embrace it. But you can do things like, raise the price, make it a party. Just say this is attendance. There's an event that I've gone to in the past. Haven't been to it in a while. They don't do a live auction at all. It is pure on party.
Mhm.
Now you pay, the tickets are cheap, and it's a place that everybody wants to go to, and they've promoted it that way. And that's how they make that a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And just by showing up. So they don't, they have a place where they'll ask for donations if somebody wants to. They're going to be an equal opportunity receiver, but they don't make that the point. The point is the pre-sale. So
Mhm.
before the auction, before the event ever starts, they've already raised all their money.
Love that.
So
Yeah.
just an
There's a couple of questions that go with that before we move on to the next one.
Sure.
One of them, is it like kind of cigarette girls in like the old days, how they would have the girls walk around with the raffle items?
Yeah,
And
so I'll tell you specifically what we've seen, and we know this works. There are crews, and I say crews of ladies, and they're very, they try to get the, young pretty girls where they're in nice formal gowns, and they go around with whatever it is, and they sell tickets, and they sell the fire out of them. There are different groups around the country, and that's what they do is they provide these for these events, and they do well. Now I don't know what it costs. I don't know all that stuff, but the one I did, that's what they did. They had 3 girls walking around with a Rolex. One had the Rolex, one was collecting the, writing down the buyer number, and the other person was handing the tickets out. And they sold $35,000 in tickets.
Awesome.
So
So cool. Every organization or every event is so unique too, right? The audience, the
Yeah.
atmosphere. So yeah, got to keep that in mind, of course.
yeah, I mean,
when you're getting
it just
detailed.
depends on how much money you raise. Now, if it's not raising any money, if you're spending all your
That's a
money on
problem.
your party and you're not
Yeah.
Right.
netting any dollars, well, then I'm going with Amy's. I'm going to say we're going to just change something because it's not just the dollars. You're not taking the amount of time it takes you to do it, which is enormous. And if
Yep.
you start factoring in the time that takes staff and, volunteer time and all that, boy, your return on investment doesn't get very well. It doesn't go very good.
For sure. For
Hopefully
sure.
that's helpful, Rachel.
Hey,
And I think that's Jason, that is key is tailoring. We're talking galas, but ultimately you don't have to have a gala. Tailor the event specific to your crowd and your committee and what's going to be, you know what I mean? We have all kinds of events. We're getting ready to put on like we switched a gala to a clay shoot.
nice. You know the audience. Yeah.
That's the audience.
Yeah.
It's in like southern part of Georgia, and
Yep.
they've done a gala for years, and it's not really raising a lot of money. And it's not, it's kind of the same thing. They get there, they don't want to spend money, so we're going to raise it all ahead of time, and it's a clay
Love it.
shoot.
Love it. That's awesome. Hey, I want to have Bailey start firing away some of these we have a lot of great questions. Thanks so much, everybody, for pouring the questions, and I think it's awesome. Real quick, Lily, about auction software, do me a favor, Lily, just email me. It's trevor@hcafundraising.com. I'm going to put you in contact with our software specialist, and she'll make some recommendations, okay? So I hope that helps. There's a few, options out there. Just really depends on what's the best fit for you. The only ones that we recommend do a great job, at their job. But shoot me an email if you don't mind, trevor@hcafundraising.com. I'll hook you up with our software specialist, and we'll get some suggestions over to you.
But definitely use
TREVOR.
software. Definitely use software.
Yeah,
for
I think it's kind of a no-brainer because it'll just work for you in so many different ways.
that. Well, it's a proven, it's a statistical fact. You'll raise 30% more money.
yeah,
I mean,
I think it's
just
awesome.
absolutely,
But yeah, happy to help, Lily, if that helps.
Bailey,
Bailey, hit us with some
hit on
questions, please.
Daphne's question real quick. I mean, I see it. I know Bailey's going to call it out, but I got Daphne's question. She said, "How do we get the contact info for invited guests who didn't purchase tickets to fundraise?"
Good question.
Make sure the people that are buying the tickets that they turn that information in,
they
that you
register.
get that information when you sell the ticket. If you're just doing paper tickets are great. I get it, and people like to have that kind of stuff. But they really don't. Nobody wants to have to chase down, where's my ticket? You can do everything electronically. All the software that's out there that you're using, you can put in that person's name and they can have their name, phone number, their cell phone number, and an email, so that way you can communicate with them. Because once somebody signed up for the event, you want to get that information as soon as you can, because
Yeah.
you want to be able to start communicating about the fund and need, about the
Yep.
mission, about what's coming up, a really
Yep.
awesome live auction item, the entertainment, why you don't want to miss this party. Hey, it's, the silent auction's opening up now. All those things, you want to have that communication so it becomes full on. So
Absolutely.
don't,
Well, you can be texting folks in real time and have that preordained as far as how you're going to go
yeah.
about doing that, like
And
alerting
don't be
folks what's going to happen with
Don't
the
be
run of
afraid to
show.
ask for this stuff. Don't be afraid to
No,
ask for what you
no,
want. You're not going to offend anybody. I've
no,
seen people
because it's
go,
not
well,
predatory.
we don't want to ask
Yeah.
anybody because we're afraid that they might not want to
Because
come
I
to our
got that
event.
car warranty
If they don't want to come,
robocall.
if they don't
like,
want to
no.
come to your event, then if they don't want to take your call, then you don't want them to come to your event because it's going to be a waste of time anyway.
We're not in
And I
that
know
era
that sounds
anymore.
harsh, but
No, we
Yeah,
just
it
we
is.
just had our largest event in March, and I want to say it was 580 people. We had the names and information for all but I think 12 people, maybe.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a win.
And obviously some switch out, but I mean, it was people are used to that. And they like, especially if you tell them, we need your information because we are going to communicate. We're going to tell you where to park. We're going to, give you all the information. And then the other piece of it is for us, when we have that information ahead of time, there's no check-in. You're checked in and you can
Yeah.
come. And we also do that because we open our silent auction a week early. So that they can start looking at those items, start bidding those items. We typically come into our event with a significant amount of money already, being bid on our silent auction items. So
Awesome.
it really is. I mean, people, it's the way it is now. People are used to it. They're fine with
Yeah,
giving
we're
that
way past that
information.
era. Yeah, we're way past that era of people being over, securitized and what have you. Yeah.
Well,
And I
and
mean,
everybody
they
thinks,
can
well,
opt out.
people
Totally.
start, and the other thing I've heard somebody say is, well, we've got an older donor group. They know how to use an iPhone just probably better
They're on Facebook right now. That older donor
Yeah,
group's on Facebook right
yeah.
now. So yeah. Hey Bailey, hit us with some questions. Thanks. Like I said, thanks so much everybody for pouring these in.
Mhm.
Hit us.
Okay, so Brianna asked, if you don't have a committed board, how do you cultivate live auctions?
Ooh,
Like
Good question.
live auction items.
I love
Call
that.
HGA.
I was just gonna say that is also a trend that we have run into is, and part of ours is because we don't have local offices anymore and we don't have staff like to go and we always had staff that would go get silent and live auction items. It's just really hard to get, even with a really good board, it's hard to get those items. It's just
Good items.
it's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like Jason said, the days of 10, 12 items are over. You want to get what people want and you want 3 or 4 really good items. And Jason hit the nail on the head. We typically will try and work with our board to get, like 2 of them, 3 of them. And then we're going to use 1 or 2 consignment items. I will never, ever have a gala without at least 1 consignment item for the simple fact I can sell it multiple times in like 3 minutes. It can make a whole bunch of money, even if your crowd's a lower end and it's a $3,000 item and you sell it 10, 12 times. I mean, you make money so quick. So,
Awesome.
I mean, they're right. I 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I needed to get a consignment item, and you can ask my staff this, I would have told you, we do not do consignment. We have to get stuff donated so that it's 100% like return. That is a new trend. You have to have a consignment, a good item on consignment to sell it multiple times.
Just for informational reasons, let me just share what that really means. What a consignment item is where there's a trip and experience or something from a company, or we do provide this, but there's other companies out there that do it as well. And you don't have any risk, but you get an item that you believe that your group is going to like. There's a fixed price. If it's anything but a fixed price, don't do it. Anybody that says they want to do split profit and all that stuff, stay away from it. But a fixed price. So let's say an example that it costs you $2,000. That's your cost. You sell it, your auction brings $4,000. You sell it 5 times for $4,000. you netted 10
10,000,
grand.
right like that. Yep.
Yeah, you netted 10,000. So that's how it works. And that's, we can break off in that because I think there's a lot of other good questions I want to get to, but I want to just point that out. That's what consignment, when we talk about it, is.
The other thing
Good.
I would say too is, if they're not committed, well, one, that's a different conversation that has to happen, but
Right.
also too, I think sometimes the not committed is, they just need a little help. They don't always know. You kind of have to talk through, like, what is a good auction item, and like, I always say, like, think for them, like, hey, do you have a buddy that has a beach house, or someone in your family, do they have a beach house that they would, give up for a week? Or, do we know somebody at the fire department that'll let us put together a kid's birthday party for a live auction? So sometimes you almost have to, like, think for them, and really plant the ideas and guide them.
Well, and you have to sit there and because what happens is everybody sits around and they go in a committee meeting, board meeting, whatever, and they go, well, I don't know. Sure wish I could get the local billionaire to wish he had put his house up, and you're like, well, okay, well, does anybody here know him to call him? Nope. Then let's just leave that off the list. The other thing that happens is typically, and this is where the leadership comes in. Your guidance as an executive director or the director of development or the head of the board committee, whatever. When somebody starts having ideas and you're having your committee, somebody goes, oh, I know what we could do. Let's have this, we could bring in a band, we could have a party, we could do this barbecue and do all this stuff. Okay, I got all this stuff down. Then you have to give action points and items to them to go execute with a deadline. If you don't give them, because you got to understand, this is your full-time job. This is what you're committed to do, and you're dealing with it day in, day out. As soon as they leave that meeting, they're thinking about picking their kid up from daycare. They got to go to a parent-teacher conference. They got a work meeting they got to deal with. They got to go out of town. I got a flat tire. Something else happens and it gets in the way. So that's why we have to give our volunteers and board members these action items that they can go, and we can follow up with them. Hey, have you been able to contact Trevor to see if he could use his house for the party? Yes. That's the real thing. And I find that a lot of times as nonprofit professional fundraisers, we tend to back up and try to let them lead. Team, I'm telling you, from the bottom of my heart, 1 in 50 that works, maybe 1 in 100, because you're going to have some tenacious, larger than life person that's going to be on there, and they're going to just take the bull by the horns and run with it. But that doesn't happen very often. Most time it's not.
We can't depend on that, to happen.
And always after those committee meetings, when you set those deadlines and stuff, I mean, it sounds simple, but always send a recap to everybody with those deadlines in it. Put it in writing. There is that accountability piece. Once you put it in writing and you send it out to the whole group, they feel a little bit more like they have to follow through.
I'll tell you something we used to do with some stuff. We would look at and say, okay, Trevor, now in front of everybody, you committed to go get the house that we're going to use for the party. You're good with that. In front of everybody, you're telling everybody you're going to do that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
God and everybody.
Because when you do, it it takes ownership.
Yep.
And
you gotta
obviously
speak that
things
one.
are going to happen. There's always going to be somebody that's going to have somebody fall out somewhere, but that's where the team picks everybody up. So
when you always have, I feel like there's always that one person that has a million ideas and a lot of lip service.
Yeah.
Oh, I can get this, and I know this person, and none of it ever happens. So if you kind of just call them out a few times and put it in writing, it saves you a lot of time.
Love that.
Oh yeah, you're not kidding. It's
Hit it, Bailey. Hit it, Bailey.
Okay, next question is going to be, would you say experiences are more for the silent auction rather than the live auction?
That's a great question. Yeah. Both. I mean, frankly.
That's what I was going to say. Both. I think it just depends on the experience. I think it depends on how many live auction items you have, because, we've talked about, you don't want a bunch of them. So if you've got 3 really, really good items and then you get an experience.
Hold on just a second. We've been saying 5 to 6 and now Amy's down to 3. See how fast this is going?
You know what, but you were an auctioneer. You want more. That's like that's your spotlight.
That's awesome.
I know.
I did one years ago. I did one with like 55 items, and that was tough. It was.
And But
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
tough.
back to the point. I mean, you both made great points. Amy, you were talking about, you know, I can sell a bunch, like a consignment item, for instance. I can sell a bunch in 3 minutes. And Jason's always said, and you both agree, you know, each live auction item is going to take 3 minutes. So sure, it should be an experience or something really, really cool. Once again, it depends on your atmosphere and if you're communicating with your donor base, and if you have data from previous events, it'd be really, really great to get lost in the data, so to speak, and then have conversations and surveys and whatnot. You know, we're only saying have a certain amount of preset live auction items because you only have a certain amount of time to raise money, and the fund and need is going to take 15 minutes, and the speaker's going to take this long, and each live auction item is going to take 3 minutes minimum. But then also to the question, who asked the question, Bailey?
Kylie?
Kylie.
Yeah,
Kylie, the
Kylie
question's
did.
a great question. But I mean, you want some, of course, we want to have big hits, you know, we don't want any misses in the live auction, right? But then a great place to test destinations, test experiences, put some higher ticket items that you maybe have never sold before in your silent auction. The silent auction is a great place to test that because there's no exposure. You know what I mean? If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell.
It
You know,
doesn't
if
sell
it,
you. I'll
yeah, I
tell
mean,
you
it's great.
what we do too that kind of puts a nice little twist on it that's super fun
Hmm.
is we'll do a super silent auction,
Love that.
and it's part of the silent auction. They're just displayed in
Yeah.
their own table with some balloons. It's a super silent. And then what we do is we have our auctioneer close out those items, and whichever one at the time is getting the most traction and is at the highest bid,
Hmm.
that one goes to the stage and becomes a live auction item.
Oh, that's
We
cool.
move it,
I
and
love that. Oh, I
it's
think
just
that's
it's a
awesome.
and who you know it is a great way to figure out. You might think it's that vacation that is going to be like top notch, and next thing you know, it's the chef that comes into your house and cooks a meal, and so you watch it and you move it up, and it's fun. I mean, people
Yeah.
have a great time with it. We've also not moved it to the stage, but had the auctioneer come over and do it right there in the
So
cocktail
fun. It's fun. That's fun. It's
reception.
Well,
creative. It's awesome.
I want to point out something too when you're talking about this stuff. And I'm going to give you a really 90-second deal, maybe not even 90, 60 seconds. 4 things people want. They want to go to an international destination. They like a domestic destination, a once in a lifetime experience, and a beach destination. If you hit those 4 things, it's going to sell. It's going to bring the money and it's going to work. That's the thing that you got to do, and you got to do it over and over and over again.
I love the super silent auction creativity. I think it's really cool. We've even seen organizations that they'll have an online component to folks that can't be in attendance the night of, but then they'll also have an exclusive silent auction that's only available to folks that attend in person. So I thought that was kind of cool, just kind of like piggybacking on the super silent. Yeah, so that's great. I think experiences can be, I think what we're saying as well is that it's not just a place where you put the basket of wine that was donated. You know what I mean? It's not just a place for that anymore. It's time to be a little more intentional and to not take risk necessarily, but swing a little bit farther, in the silent auction. That's for sure. So,
Well, that's
Bailey?
exactly what happened. Everybody, it was the discount bargain bin.
Yeah, it's just not fun, man. It's not fun.
And
Yeah,
I can
it's
tell you,
taking up real estate.
what number do y'all use on the silent auction to retail? To retail value, what do you expect to collect, Amy?
50%?
Our target is 60 to 70%
60 to 70%. So this is the
of
discount.
fair market value.
So it winds up being the discount bargain bin where people go get stuff for cheap. Well, that's a lot of work. They're
Yeah,
a lot of
people
work for
power.
go to get 60, 70%. But when you do some certain strategic things with your silent auction, like number 1, stop getting the same old crap. Nobody wants to buy a hygiene, a trip to the dentist.
It's a nice,
No.
it's a nice donation, but it's not the.
No, it's
spot
not.
for
It's
that.
a
free
terrible
photo
donation. We
session
want
with the
cash.
photographer.
Yeah, give them a whitening treatment or something, not freaking, oh yeah, it doesn't include x-rays. That doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to go get a customer. Gift cards are this is a great example. I've seen auctions where they had 50 gift cards out there and they're bringing $10 a pop. That's a whole lot of work. Take it all and put it in one big pile and sell it for a couple of grand, and it will bring that money.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just don't underestimate the ability of your donors to donate. Because everybody
As long
goes,
as you
"Well,
give them things they want to bid on and donate.
here's one of
towards,
the one I love. Well, we want everybody to be able to buy something. No, we don't. No, I want to raise money. My job to do this, this is a fund, F-U-N-D raiser, dollars. This is, cash American. That's what we are here to raise. It's not to be fair. Fair is a place where pigs get blue ribbons. This is to raise money for our mission. And if we keep mission first, mission focused, that's up at the forefront, then all the other stuff will take care of itself. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, I love it. Bailey, hit it.
What are your suggestions for sponsorship levels and criteria? What are your suggestions about sales? Should people be buying their tickets included in their sponsorship level? Free for invite only, free for all, must RSVP.
And who's that question
I'm
from?
gonna let Amy take that,
Darlene.
and I'm gonna step.
Who is it now? Who's the question from?
Darlene.
Carlene. Okay.
Darlene.
So, we here again, I think it depends on the event. I prefer sponsorship levels over selling tickets. Tickets end up being, to me, like I don't want to say a last resort, but we really try and sell sponsorships because sponsorships is where you make your money. And I will tell you, if you are doing tickets, make sure you price them right. And so with that being said, what we do for a ticket sale, we look at what the cost is, all in cost per person, a breakdown of the venue, the food, all of it. It costs me $100 for a person to attend the event. Depending on the event, we either 3 times it or 4 times it. Typically it's 4. So if it's costing us $100, a ticket's going to be $400 to get in. That is also how we build our sponsorship levels. As far as the criteria, we start with that. So if you have tables of 8 and it's 400, you want $400 per ticket. You take that 4 times 8, your sponsorship level is starting at $3,200. That is the base. And maybe you sell a table, and because they're buying a table, and maybe you make it $3,000 instead of $3,200, because that way it's cheaper than buying individually. But from there, then you build, that's your base. You build your sponsorship levels based on the criteria. As you add things into it, you add in your name on all signage and your logo in a pre-email. You just, what is the value? And I don't want to say it's a guessing game, but it is a little bit of a guessing game, because a majority of what we give away in our sponsorships don't really cost us anything. It's their logo scrolling on the screen. It's, if they're the bar sponsor, it's a sign and a logo at the bar. So you build it from there. And your level really truly depends on your levels, your event and how much you're trying to raise. I mean, if you're trying to raise $500,000, your sponsorship levels, you need those $25,000, $50,000 levels. But if you're trying to raise $100,000, your levels are probably more like $3,000, $5,000. I was looking at.
Well, don't ever forget the math. I'm going to pop in real quick.
Love
It's
that.
a real simple math. It's a real simple math equation. You take
Totally.
what your expenses are. How many tables can you fit in the room? How many people can you get in there? And what's your target to do? If you've got 10 top tables and your target's 200 people, it's kind of an easy deal. I got 20 tables to sell. Well, if you've got 20 tables to sell, it's costing you $500 a table, and I'm using this for simple generic math. And you're selling your tables for 500, for $1,000 a piece. You're not going to get any. You're going to raise 10 grand.
We
And that's
also
before-
have a, when you
Well,
talk
I was
forward,
just going to say, you got to get those levels up, and don't be afraid, because if you do not ask, they will not give. I've
Right.
never had anybody come up and say, "Hey, Jason, I want to buy a $50,000 table. I see you don't have one on your sheet. All you've got is
Right.
10, but I want to give you 50." Never has happened, ever.
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to have them on there. And we also, the formula we use, is we want 70% of our income in sponsorships. So going into the event, 70% sponsorships, 30% is our night of income. And we do a breakdown of, we want 20% from our mission drive, fund a need and 10% from silent live auction. So we have those metrics set up ahead of time to get us to that number. And then like Jason said, with how many tables can you sell and to get you to that 70%.
Love it. Love it. Awesome.
Rhonda has a related question to that. How do you cultivate corporate sponsorships? She says that her board doesn't have any leads and neither do their donors.
Get new board members.
I was gonna say you need a new board.
Here's what I'm going to take that real quick.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I promise you they do. I promise you that your board, no matter where they are, what their status in society is or where they are, because a lot of times people go, well, we don't have anybody with any money. Everybody has one of these. Everybody walks around. Most powerful fundraising tool there is your cell phone. And within there are contacts that you know of people that want to help your mission. Your board has it, your volunteers, the people around you, your staff. But you've got to there's got to be a way for you to unlock those. If we all sit around in a room and we try to just think of somebody, we can't think of anybody. So we call it the people exercise. We've got some pieces on it, how you do it. It's just basically everybody gets their phone out, you go through the numbers, put them out there, and we can, Bailey, if you'll find that when we send the email out with this, would you find that one where we talked about that and do it? And if you want to sign up for a coaching session, we'll walk you through it. I mean, this is really, I recommend you always start, anytime you're starting your fundraising, you got to start with this. Because, and I know Amy does a version of it, but it's where you're basically finding out who we know. Because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this is all about connecting. Because if we connect people that we know first, then we connect their heartstrings, we can bring them into the fold, they're going to donate more money.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, hey, the free coaching's free. Or the coaching sessions are free. Pardon me. The free coaching is free.
The free coaching, $9.95.
We have 18 minutes. The 18 minutes, and we have about 18 questions.
Hey, can we just do a speed round on these questions?
One minute per question. And keep them coming, everybody.
Speed round these real quick? Would that be okay, Amy? You want to do that?
Yeah.
Let's rock. Good. Go ahead, Bailey.
All right. So Bailey, just rip them off. We're going to do like 2 or 3 word answers, and then we'll go. Okay.
Kylie asked, we are thinking about switching up our event, not doing a silent auction, but rather a shorter program, live auction and then casino night. Have you seen this before?
Done it twice. Great idea.
Yeah. But do the casino at the end after fundraising. Do not do the casino before.
No. You have to, because you have to keep them there so you can get their money. And then, yep.
You got to do it. Okay. Good.
Okay. Next question is from Julie. If your gala includes honorees, how do you gracefully ask them to assist with fundraising?
Go, Amy. I want to hear you say it first.
It's a conversation when you ask them to be the honoree. You tell them that part of the expectation is to invite their network in to help support the event
early. Yep.
And if you do that, and that's the expectation, you'll know real quick whether they're going to be a good honoree or not, because they may go, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And that's okay.
That's not a Nikki conversation.
Better to have that out up front than have somebody that's just going to be a limp noodle and you're going to give a plaque away and they didn't do anything.
And it's the norm in the industry. I think that sometimes we talk ourselves out of things, or we get nervous about things, when the reality is that's what probably 90% of your nonprofits do. They have an honoree and they expect them to fundraise. And
the really simple way you do that, you sit down with them and you help them do it, because they may not call. They'll go, okay, here's the list. I need your list. Everybody that you want to invite that we're going to reach out to, because you're going to send a communication to that person saying, hey, Trevor, hey, we're having this great fundraiser. Amy Meyers is going to be our honoree. We know that you really appreciate her, and we'd like to ask you if you'd be willing to participate, help us raise some money on her behalf. That's how it works.
Send it out from the board. Like, we'll do the board chair. The board chair sends it out on behalf of the honoree, and
perfect.
Okay.
Mobile bidding or old-fashioned paper bidding?
Mobile bidding.
Mobile, 100%.
There's not even a time never to not do it.
I'm going to interject, and I'm going to say absolutely, I concur on all fronts. If you've been using mobile bidding for a while, I'm not saying there's going to be any mobile fatigue. I did hear of an event recently where they said, we're going to use vintage, for like a very, very specific sponsor event. I actually thought it was kind of a cool idea, but I'm absolutely not saying not to use mobile.
Yeah, if you've got 25 people showing up and you're doing a little short thing like that, I get it.
I thought it was a cool idea. They said vintage because it's a throwback, and history will come back, but you absolutely need to use mobile bidding. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is from Anonymous, but they were asking if Amy could say what the gala changed to again. What type of
Oh, the
event?
clay shoot.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Yeah.
clay shoot where what are the little clay
Yeah, it's
saucers that
clay
go up
targets
and
where they
you
take
shoot 'em.
shotguns and you go out and they shoot up and you shoot them. Yeah, it's competition. Yep. Yep. Great
Cool.
party.
When do you know that an event is dead?
When you lose money,
Good.
nobody shows.
Names, Bailey. Names.
Sorry. This is from Sarah. Do you recommend a VIP experience for high-level donors at the event?
I love a VIP experience, even if it's 30 minutes beforehand to
Cool.
get them in. And I always put a sign. So then when people get there and they see that and they want to go in there, you say, you can next year if you sponsor at this level.
Love that.
Can I give you? I said this to
Exclusivity for
Trevor the
sure.
other day. I've never spent money on a special experience that I regretted, but I've darn sure regretted not spending that money.
Such a good point. It's
And
such a
so
good
that's how
point.
people will
Yep.
be. And here's something you can do. If you've got like a special guest or somebody coming, there's a foundation I've worked with, and they always have a pro tennis player or former, they're always retired. They would come, and in the negotiation, they have to be at the VIP party there to meet and greet the
Yeah, meet and greet.
VIPs,
Yeah.
shake their hands, take pictures, and do all that. So it's very special.
Yep. Love it.
Sarah asked after parties after gala, yay or nay?
That could be an exclusive event, frankly. I don't know.
It could be an exclusive.
I always see they wind up being a drunk fest, and
It's a
It's a
drunk fest.
long night.
Nobody's
I
spending
mean,
money. It's an added
yeah.
expense.
I just
It's a
that's what
long
I
night.
think. I think it's an added expense that you don't need.
Yeah. Good call.
Darlene asked any suggestions how to secure people to attend your event, any social media strategies or other ideas?
Sell tables.
Cool. Yep. I think you should communicate on all fronts. You have mobile bidding software. You're doing email blast, texts,
Hey,
social, everything.
yeah.
Yeah. I love what
you're
Jason
not-
said.
I can
think
tell you because we've seen it fail too many times. People say, "Oh, I'm going to have an event," and I put it out on social media, and that doesn't sell a ticket.
that can't be
It
your
never
only
works.
avenue.
It never
Yeah,
works.
you have to do it all. You have to do it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Amy?
even I don't care what
And
you're
you
going
have
to
to
do.
have a
You're never going to you're never going to sell a gala out by social media. It's never going to happen.
Mm-mm.
But can I ask Amy this question? Because this is something that has been kind of coming up in stuff. And I've been kind of trending towards don't sell individual tickets. I mean, it depends on
I
the
said
event.
that when you got up and went away. I'm
Oh,
not.
did you?
We do.
Yeah.
So we prefer some events we have no ticket sales. It's all tables. And some it's kind of like they're available, but we don't put them on like our sales brochure. The other thing with selling tables, we have gotten to where we do not do 10 top tables anymore. We do 8 because we have found that typically when a company buys a sponsorship and they have a table, they can fill it with 5 or 6 good people that are in come and spend money. The rest end up being no offense, but the janitor that is going to be home on Friday night and isn't going to spend money. Or, so the more people at the table, I think the more you get the people that are eaters and drinkers, not bidders. So we've cut down on our table size. It cuts down on the costs, and we have less people in the room that are just there to eat and drink.
Yeah. I
Good
use 10
call.
top just because it was easier math, but 8's the common.
Yeah. Love it.
Everybody
Love it.
sees.
Yvonne asked for clarification on consignment items. Is it for or with a third party item?
Yvonne, consignments, there are companies out there, HGA Fundraising, we're one of them, but there are several reputable companies out here across that work with people all throughout the United States. And it is the company, that's their job. That's what they do. We provide experiences and trips that you can use specifically for your donors. Be very, very cautious of anybody outside of that because we deal with donors every day. We understand that, the donor went and paid a huge premium to go on this. And so we understand how to deal with it. Sometimes people don't get that and it kind of becomes uncomfortable because somebody just goes and buys something on the side. So be really careful about that. But it's it's a tremendous money raiser.
Amy?
That also answered Leslie's question. If we knew of any great organizations that offered consignment items, I was going to say
HGAfundraising.com.
I know.
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is the trend is consignment companies. And so now there are actually, there's one is called Jewels for a Purpose or Jewels with a Purpose, where they have the different jewelry that you use for a revenue enhancer. You get like 50 pieces for a small cost, and it's very nice jewelry.
I did a webinar
There's
with them.
ones that do more specific, like silent auction type things. So I think it started out with like an HGA with the vacations and stuff, but it really, because of the trend of using these consignment items, there's all different levels.
Well,
Yeah,
there's different things that you can do. And the reason is, here, let me give you a real quick thing. One, people that have vacation homes, secondary places, things like that most of them have put them in short-term vacation, like VRBO, things like that. And they just don't want to mess with it. Or they just don't want to have to schedule it and have anybody going in their house. It's different now. Ever since 2019, 2020, things are just different. Because then they got to schedule and create those things. And people are like, it's just easier just not to do it.
I'll tie a bow on that as well, Yvonne. No, HCA, for instance, we're not a third party, so we don't pass off donors to third parties. We actually book everything in house. So it's not that I was perplexed by that question, but yeah, you want to be like Jason said. You want to be very wary of the donor experience, especially when you're using items that aren't donated, of course. So
okay, we got 9 minutes. Got more questions.
What is the best way to capture credit card information? This is from LaShayla. I hope I'm saying that right. We've asked for credit card information through email in advance, but not everyone enters it. We've also rented swipers and just wanted to know if there was any other options.
Software companies that you're going to use that are in this industry, if you're using a software, they have secure credit card functions where you don't ever have to touch or have somebody. Email is a terrible way to collect credit card information because it's just very unsecure and people are very leery of that. So be really thoughtful. The thing that, and these software companies, we can make several recommendations. They come in all sizes and flavors and different ones we like, but we work with most of them. And so, but they have a way where they can do it. And that way you send them a link and they just go put their credit card right in there. Or when they show up, there's a QR code on a poster and you just go up there and they put it on and then they says, put your credit card information. They put the credit card information in. People are used to doing it. They can usually do it on their phone faster than you pulling out swipers. I hate swipers because they always mess up.
Yeah, it's a time waste. Yeah.
Yeah, we do the software and we try and get everybody. But here again, it's that communication piece. We send out a very specific email and text message a week before the event saying, go to this link, input your credit card information so that when you get to the event, you walk in, you bypass check. It's a very specific, it's communicated to them why we need it, why they're doing it. And then the QR codes back up.
Absolutely.
You guys have kind of already answered this next question, but how do you price consignment items?
Depends.
Okay, here's our rule of thumb. If it is in the live auction, you need to tell your auctioneer that it needs to sell for 50 to 100% more than what your reserve rate is. So if it costs you $2,000, it needs to sell between 3 and 4 or more. If it's in the silent auction, we recommend 25% markup for the first bid. So in other words, if it was a $4,000 item, the minimum bid would be $5,000. And that's your starting bid. So if only one person bids, you're making money. Do not ever, and don't ever tell your auctioneer the reserve bid is what is your reserve. You tell them what you want.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
25 years ago, somebody did that with me and I didn't know. And I sold it for like $100 over the reserve and thought I'd done really well for them. And I didn't know any better. So I'm just telling you, you got to be real specific with them because they may not, if they're not a professional, because a majority of auctioneers doing auctions are not charity auctioneers. Okay. They're working auctioneers. Maybe they're in the car business, they're real estate, things like that. And they go up there and they don't know. And so if you don't know, you can't tell them. I mean, you got to tell them what you want.
I highly recommend. We had those auctioneers that were the car auctioneers and all that. And they were free. They donated their time or they were very cheap. It is worth the money to invest in a good charity auctioneer. They will pay. If they are a true charity auctioneer, I truly believe they pay for themselves over and over and will bring in more money.
Love it.
Sorry, that's my soapbox.
Good.
I
But give
have
them things
been
to
there.
sell too.
I've done that.
And
and
give them the best possible, outcome and give them items they can sell, right?
Hey,
So,
I want to
Yeah.
get to Sarah's question real quick because we got to wrap and give some stuff away here in a second. But I want to hit on this because she said we've got a donor that has an experience, is dinner on a private yacht. We've done it 4 or 5 years, and it always brings $4,000 or $5,000. Here's one thing that you can do, because at this point, everybody that wants to buy it has bought it. But here's what I can tell you: there are people that would love to do it that cannot afford to spend 4 or 5,000. They're like $1,000 player or something. So use it as your golden ticket raffle. Sell 100 tickets for $100. It's going to bring $10,000. Your donor's going to be tickled. The winner's going to be tickled, and you still, it's a win-win all the way around. So there you go.
cool.
Love it.
Bailey, hit it.
Melissa asked, what is the super silent auction and how many items is it typically?
A super silent auction is it's many things. It is items that it could be items that are too good for your silent auction, not too good, but just you want to set them apart, but they're not quite auction live auction worthy, so to speak. They're kind of in the middle. They could be very unique items that, like I said, you have a super silent and people are bidding on them, and then you take one to the stage and add it to your live auction. We did a super silent staycation one at one of our events with all trips from HGA, and we had I think we had 6 different trips.
Mhm.
And we just put balloons around it, and really it's kind of a fancy name to make people
Fun.
think they're getting something
Yeah.
different, and
Just
and
fun.
it's a different experience.
One thing that I would recommend if you're going to do that is to have somebody there to answer questions.
Good
Have
call.
somebody there to
Oh
say,
yeah,
"Hey,
we
are
had
you
our
done?"
auctioneer.
Yeah.
Yep, the auctioneer was right there by it, explaining, what it is. Whether it was, you can do it as you close it out with the rest of the silent auction. You can do it as, like I said, you take 1 or 2 items to the stage. But just putting balloons and stuff around, it just draws attention, and
Mhm.
I don't know, putting super silent on it makes
I think it's cool.
something different.
Yep. I think it's cool.
Sarah asked if you can repeat where they want to see money come in for each event percentage.
So
cool.
ours, and this is based on totally our events and research that we did on how they typically are, and then where ours came in, we then upped it to put new goals. But we do 70% sponsorship money going into the event, and then 30% obviously night of, and we use it as 20% from the fund to need or mission drive, and 10% between your live and silent auction. And then if it's revenue enhancers that you also have, they're just kind of like bonus, put you over your goal.
Darlene asked if there's any ideas for VIP experiences.
I mean, like, I think like a chef, an in-home chef, that is like like a unique VIP experience that people love. If there's a restaurant in town that like people want to go to that's high end, and you can get that chef to agree to come to their home, and then pair it with the grocery store that will give a gift card to cover all the cost of the food or whatever, and a wine company that will do the different wine for each course, and make it an in-home chef experience is a great one. We've done some with a VIP experience for your child, like a birthday party at a fire station, where we get somebody to bring in, somebody donates pizzas, and somebody, just kind of like build it out, and it's a super cool experience and is pretty easy to put together, but we'll bring in a ton of money. Those are 2 that come to any experience
We had a
that you
group.
just can't go by.
Yeah, we had a deal
Yeah.
where we had had a restaurant. They said, look, if you'll pay for the food, because the food costs what kills them. They said, if you'll do that, we're going to kick some wine in and help us with the cost. We'll donate the meal portion. We'll cook it and everything like that. Then we had a local celebrity. I say a celebrity. That's not, we had 2 politicians. We had the minority house leader and the majority house leader. Both of them got up there. We sold each one of them. They both wound up bringing $10,000 to have a dinner with them. It was for 10. Now, we didn't let them talk, because politicians don't ever let a politician talk because they'll talk too much. But we did that, and so it brought 10 grand a piece, and it was a fun game with it. between the two political sides. So it was, and
Awesome.
everybody loved it. Everybody
Yeah.
just went, it was really good. Hey,
Golf with a celebrity, a politician or something is big
it's about,
too.
and go through, that's where you do a people exercise and figure out who you know and what people can do, what they have access to. Okay, I've got a winner. We've got to give something away because we promised we'd get everybody out of here in an hour. So here we go. It is, I did the number, Sandy Goranson. Sandy Gorgon.
Hey,
I think it's
Sandy.
Sandy Goranson.
All
And
right.
Sandy, I'm going to share my screen, let you touch the screen. Here it is. And
You got to spin the wheel, Sandy. Sorry.
why can't I-
Spin the wheel for what you're going to win. A lot
And
of
of course-
questions. We are going to send out the recording. Amy's going to be copied. We're going to have to do this again, Amy. Sorry about that.
All right, here we
It's
go.
fun. I love
It's
it.
totally fun. Yeah.
Are y'all seeing this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, there we go. I got to get it, make sure it's working.
What does Sandy win? Love it.
$200
Right on,
and
Sandy.
$88 right here. All right.
That was worth your time. Thanks, Sandy. Appreciate. Hey, appreciate
Yeah.
everybody. We have some really, really cool questions that we didn't even get to, as a matter of fact. So we're going to send out the recording. If you want to respond with questions, we'll all be copied on the email. If you want to respond with questions, you're more than welcome to. Amy will be copied on that email. Can't thank everybody enough for coming. Amy, we got to do this again. Like I said, this is
Yeah.
too many questions.
Part
Hey, and what
two.
we'll try to do, what we're going to do is, I'm going to get Bailey to hit us with those questions. We'll try to go and answer them. And if we didn't get one, we'll put it out there with the email when we send the recording. And if we didn't get that done, go to hjfundraising.com, sign up for a coaching session. We'll give you an hour of personal one-on-one time.
No question. That sounds awesome. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Thanks,
thanks
Amy.
so much for
Appreciate it so
coming. Really,
much.
really cool.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Amy.
Thank
We
you.
love your idea. Let's do it again. We'll talk to you all very soon. Okay.
All
See you next Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.